One second here. What's going on, guys? GZTV. And again, I said on my boys review, this doesn't really feel in order that I'm doing this, but we have El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. Oh my god. The second I finished the Breaking Bad series, I instantly wanted to watch this movie. And the second you finish the Breaking Bad series, you should too. This is pretty much a sequel to the series. It's not like a remake. It's not like a spin-off. It's literally a part of the series. Like, this stuff is actually in the Breaking Bad universe, and it happens right after Breaking Bad the show ends. And I think they did a great job at like transitioning that well. Oh man, it's so cool. You get like a nearly 2 hour. Well, the credits, it's not 2 hours. You get a nearly 2 hour extension. You get pretty much like a double episode with one character involved, and that is Jesse Pinkman. If you look at the movie poster, you instantly know this is a Jesse Pinkman movie. It's going to be spoilers. It happened after Breaking Bad. Do not watch this movie if you haven't watched this show. Do not watch this review if you haven't watched the show and you haven't watched the film. But, yeah. So, it's pretty much showing us our journey after Jesse escapes Jack's little lab thing, little camp thing. And they're like Nazis, so I think they're literally neo-Nazis. So I think Jesse, like, in them, they like kind of represent something in history, the Nazis and the Jews. I think it's a very interesting parallel that nobody really talks about. Them being neo-Nazis and Jesse being kind of their like modern day like Jew during the Holocaust. Like, I know it's terrible, it's fucked up to talk about, but like maybe they did this on purpose. Maybe they made those characters Nazis, and maybe they made Jesse imprisoned on purpose and made him do things on purpose. I don't know, but let's just get into the film. It's not like the greatest thing that's happened to Breaking Bad, but my God, it was needed. We needed to know what happened to Jesse. So in a flashback to shortly before they have Walter White's meth business, Jesse Pinkman asks Mike Ehrmantraut where he would go to start over before they leave Walter White. So this is kind of a behind-the-scenes thing, something we didn't see in the show, and there was a lot of this in there. There were quite a bit of flashbacks. Obviously, they continued this story very, very well, and it made sense, but this right here is just when they're about to leave Walter White's business, like when they were opting out and stuff. This is what they were talking about. Mike says if he were younger, he would go to Alaska, an idea Jesse finds appealing. Jesse expresses the desire to make amends for past wrongdoing, but Mike cautions that starting over would make that impossible. So all along, Jesse, ever since he left Walter White's meth business, all along he kind of, like, this kind of shows that he wanted to move out. He wanted to skip town, even though he pretty much told Walter White, like, no, I'm not leaving. I can't leave what I have here. So, I don't know, maybe Jesse was being manipulative. I don't know, it was a weird revelation there. So in the present, Jesse flees the Brotherhood compound on Todd Alquise's El Camino. So that's the car. That's one reason why the show is called El Camino. And another, I think El Camino means the way, like pretty much saying like there was a way for Jesse to get out of this situation. So he goes to Albuquerque, home of Skinny Pete and Badger, who hide the car and give Jesse a place to sleep. And may I add that this is some of my favorite scenes in the movie, with Skinny Pete and Badger. This trio had such chemistry throughout the show, and I loved it. Like, these were the best moments of the film, and not even the action sequences. I don't think the action sequences were that good. Like, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think they were necessarily that good. Hold on, I got some comments here that I wanted to read that I made. Let's see. I feel like one thought I have about this is the movie should have been made sooner. I'm gonna be honest. It took 6 years from the ending, which obviously I got everything all in one piece, watching it 3 years after the series has pretty much come to a close, officially. But they should have made the movie sooner. Too much curiosity. Todd's appearance change isn't necessarily a nuisance, but it doesn't make sense. Took away from the slight charisma and youthfulness that it made his villain arc hit different. We're going to get to Todd here in a second and how he's involved, which obviously he is because he imprisoned Jesse for all that time. But I don't know. We're gonna talk about like what I think of Better Call Saul as well. There are some things I need to talk about. The next morning, Jesse calls old Joe to dispose of the El Camino, but Joe leaves after discovering it's LoJack. So old Joe is the guy that destroyed the RV. A lot of characters from this franchise are in here, and I wish there were even more in here. I really do. I wish like DEA agent Hank was in this. I would have loved that. That would have been so awesome. Loved that. That would have been so awesome. So, Pete devises a plan to make it appear Jesse fled after trading the El Camino for Pete's Ford Thunderbird. Pete and Badger give Jesse the money Walter gave them, and Badger drives south in the Thunderbird. So it appears Jesse headed to Mexico. Pete stays with the El Camino and waits for police to respond to the LoJack. Jesse departs in Badger's Pontiac Fiero. He learns from the radio news of Walter's potentially fatal poisoning of a woman and of Walter's death. So there were theories after Breaking Bad that Walter White lived. I hope my dad doesn't hear this because I'm pretty much spoiling the show. And we still have like 5 episodes to watch. Honestly, like 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Well, we still have 5. I need to watch episode 12 again with my dad because he wasn't really paying attention. I don't know. So, we come to understand that Lydia Rodarte Quayle's storyline has been completed. She died, pretty much. Walter died. There's no theories suggesting that he came back from the dead. In a flashback to Jesse's captivity, Todd takes Jesse to Todd's apartment to help dispose of his cleaning lady, whom he killed after she discovered his hidden money. So another villainous exploit displayed by Todd, and another heartless act that made him like one of the bigger villains, one of the more impactful villains on Walter's story. They sidestep Lou Shanzer, Todd's busybody neighbor, and bury the corpse in the Painted Desert. So obviously the desert that was so popular in the show. Jesse briefly acquires Todd's gun, but Todd coerces Jesse into returning it. I got pizza, hungry ass dude. In the present, Jesse sneaks into Todd's apartment and searches for Todd's new hiding place. A lot of Easter eggs, like looking through Todd's apartment. The tarantula from the kid he still has in his apartment. The snow globe of him, like, romanticizing over Lydia Rodarte. I mean, a lot of cool things going on. Moments after Jesse finds it, policemen Neil Candy and Casey enter and begin searching. Jesse hides but holds Casey at gunpoint after Casey finds him. They're not actually policemen. We will find that out in a second here. Neil disarms Jesse, who realizes they are not police, but thugs also looking for Todd's money. They realize that this guy has died and that this legacy of him, Jack, and all those guys have left money behind, and they are looking to rob it. There was like, I don't even know how much money there was. They have like some fake ass police costumes. To save himself, Jesse reveals he found the cash himself. So Lou reports finding an old note from Todd, and Casey distracts him by feigning interest. I love the Shans pretty much like indirectly ruined their operation a little bit because Jesse got some of the money and they wanted all of it. Neil and Jesse bargain over the cash, and Neil agrees to let Jesse take a third because there are 3 people involved in this situation. As they depart, Jesse recognizes Neil as the welder who built the tether that held him while he was forced to cook meth for the Brotherhood. So he realizes that this guy has associations with Todd in them. So Jesse finds Ed Galbraith, the disappearer, who moved Saul out, who moved Walt out, and eventually, spoiler alert, moves Jesse out. The guy that, who wants $125,000 to aid Jesse, plus another $125,000 for the previous occasion when Jesse hired him but failed to commit, which is really dumb. I mean, he didn't actually move him out, so I don't know why he's expecting money. It's really weird. Jesse is $1,800 short, and Ed refuses to help, so this guy's very adamant he wants the actual money amount. Knowing that they are being surveilled, Jesse calls his parents and feigns willingness to surrender. He's like, please, please let me surrender. Please let this end. There's no way out of this. The feds are going to catch me eventually. I'm sorry, I keep slamming my phone down. I apologize. After his parents and the police depart, Jesse sneaks into the Pinkman home and takes 2 pistols from his father's safe, a Colt Woodsman and an Ivor Johnson hammerless. So this is really dope. He has 2 pistols, which kind of foreshadows something. You don't really know what it is, but something happens that you're like, oh, okay, that's why he had 2 pistols. So Jesse drives to Neil's shop where Neil, Casey, and 3 friends celebrate with escorts and cocaine. After the escorts leave, he asks for $1,800 and Neil refuses. So they kind of celebrate robbing the money. Seeing the woodsman in Jesse's waistband, Neil challenges Jesse to a duel for his share of the cash. And the creator of the show said that Breaking Bad is like a modern day Western film. So he added this and he made it, and it made it kind of appropriate to have like a classic mano a mano duel here between these guys. Let's see. So Jesse agrees, and when Neil reaches for his gun, Jesse shoots him with the hammerless, which was concealed in his jacket pocket. So he pretty much like shot it through his pocket. It was so badass. That was one of the more badass things Jesse did in this movie. Casey fires at Jesse, but Jesse kills him with Neil's gun, the .45. Jesse collects the driver's licenses of the remaining men and lets them leave after threatening to return and kill them if they tell the police. So Jesse being ruthless, he's definitely matured a fucking lot. My God, he used to be like this naive, charismatic teenage kid. Not a teenager, he might have been like early 20s actually, now that I think about it. He recovers Neil's cash and departs after setting an explosion to cover his tracks. In a Walter White Heisenberg fashion, he blows the facility up. In a flashback, Walter and Jesse have breakfast after a multi-day meth cook, like the 4 days out where they got stuck out in the desert with the RV. A lot of callbacks to the show, and they did a great job at that. The Easter eggs were probably like the better part of the film, which isn't bad, because obviously it comes from like a core franchise, so you need to like kind of pay homage to that show in a way. And seeing Bryan Cranston in this movie was so refreshing. It was so cool. There was like another scene that you didn't see from the series. So estimating they will make more than $1 million, Walter laments having waited his entire life to do something special and calls Jesse lucky since he will not have to wait. So in the present, Ed drops Jesse off at a car parked near Haines, Alaska. So the disappearer gets his money and he finally agrees to take Jesse out to Alaska. Jesse gives Ed a letter for Brock Cantillo. It acknowledges he does not want to say goodbye to anyone else but Brock. Jesse kind of dragged Brock into it. Walter poisoned him with the lilies, and he wants to say he's sorry. He wants to send some letters. He wants to say a goodbye note, and it's so wholesome. I love that they added this minor detail into it, that he sent a letter to Brock. It's so like, it's kind of heartbreaking to be honest, but it's also heartwarming at the same time. Driving off, Jesse has a flashback to his time with Jane Margolis, who is also in the film, Christian Ritter. Oh man, Jesse's life really like culminates and like flashes before his eyes at the end of the film. It's kind of sad. It really is sad. He tells her he admires what she said about going wherever the universe takes her, but she dismisses it as metaphorical and encourages him to make his own decisions. Jesse drives on smiling. So this whole time, him wanting to leave the country, maybe leave the state of New Mexico, maybe his motives this whole time were because of Jane. Maybe that's why he took her words literally. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to wrap up the film. 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 7.3 out of 10. Entertaining if not essential, El Camino adds a satisfyingly belated coda to the Breaking Bad story, led by a career best performance from Aaron Paul. He gets his own movie as Jesse Pinkman. It's a great way to wrap up that franchise. Obviously, we have Better Call Saul, but the core franchise of Breaking Bad. So, Metacritic gave it a 7.2 out of 10. Generally favorable reviews. Near anonymous acclaim for Aaron Paul's performance as Jesse Pinkman. Mesmerizing portrayal, ease at Foley, re-inhabiting a role he didn't play for years, endowing Jesse with the same mix of waning goofiness and escalating existential terror that propelled him through the finale. Paul's work in El Camino is staggering, given the high difficulty factor that comes with having to play so many variations of this character. Um, what makes El Camino so compelling is the way it engages with how he's changed since those early days. Really, that is true. Um, it did. Some people are saying it did not utilize his full potential. Without actors to bounce off, the film doesn't know what to do with him. I can agree that they didn't like add as many Breaking Bad characters as I would have liked. Maybe like a little scene where they show like what happened to Walter White's family would have been cool, but I don't know. Maybe Jesse like stopping by their house and like saying he's sorry for everything, even though he tried to burn their fucking house. Maybe that's unrealistic. I don't know. Um, People liked how Jesse Plemons played Todd in this film. He did great, but his appearance threw me off. Plemons never got the respect he deserved, and this might be a good time to properly relish what an odd and awful guy Todd was. The directing was great. Gilligan's a precise and complicated visual stylist. The conception of Breaking Bad as a modern Western has never been so clearly articulated and executed. You feel like you are kind of watching a Western film with this. It gives you the vibes. It gives you like a Western drama vibes, almost like a Yellowstone vibes. But obviously, it's better than Yellowstone. Let's be real here. The cinematography was great. The editing was great. The composition. Obviously, all those guys came from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, so we knew this movie was going to be good. El Camino kind of returned to the original show's grammar. Gilligan's style is energetic. The larger budget being applied was more for high anxiety than flashy pyrotechnics, I guess. Yeah, yeah. The montages, the editing were great, and the cinematography. The Western imagery is a bit clumsily deployed, but the scale of the film was commended by most. So, people liked it as a continuation. I'm not going to read all of these, but I just wanted to get the general critical conception as El Camino as a standalone film, even though it really isn't a standalone film. It is a part of a franchise, and it continues it like appropriately, and it's a very smooth transition into the rest of Jesse Pinkman's story. And Jesse Pinkman wins, and Walter loses. But does Walter? No, Walter doesn't necessarily lose. I don't know. But anyways, I don't really have much to say. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Episode 12 of Breaking Bad will get reviewed today. I've watched the whole show. Don't forget that. I have watched the entire show. And that's why I'm reviewing this now, because I literally binge watched from 12 all the way to the end of Breaking Bad and El Camino in one night. I pretty much did that. So, yeah, have a good rest of your day.